Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon, rather. It is Monday, May 18th, 4:01 p.m. With that, I call this executive committee meeting to order. Um, we have present here, and I think it's best to just do the roll call to ensure we can establish quorum appropriately. Mr. Campbell Gooch, Mr. Martinez,
Present.
Mr. Sweeney,
Here.
and Ashley Davis present. So we have three of the four members of the executive committee present. We have quorum. Next, we'll move to, actually, before we move to the approval of the minutes, let me read the appeal statement here. Pursuant to the provisions of section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and the Davidson County Community Oversight Board may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of cert. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. Thank you. With that, we'll move to the approval of the minutes. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney, for sharing them with us ahead of time here. Is anyone requesting additional time to review, or is there a motion here to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve. This is Andres.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. 1 second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. With that, any focused discussion? Okay, then we'll vote here. Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
and Ashley Davis, aye as well. The motion carries. The minutes are approved from the last meeting. Next is the electronic meeting statement. Mr. Pinkley.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as we've done in front of all of our other previous electronic meetings, I'll just go over briefly go over the rationale for why we're able to hold our meetings electronically. On March 20th, 2020, Governor Lee signed Executive Order 16, which granted governing bodies the opportunity to meet electronically in light of the coronavirus disease that had been spreading. That order was set to expire today, May 18th, but on May 6th, 2020, Governor Lee signed Executive Order 34, which extended the opportunity to hold electronic meetings through June 30th, 2020. So at this time, we need someone from the board to make a motion, essentially stating that the board needs to meet today to conduct essential business and is holding this meeting electronically to protect the safety and welfare of the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. In 1 second.
Second.
Mr. Martinez, thank you. Any focused discussion? That all those in favor, Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
and Ashley Davis, I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pinkley. Anything else on that topic or anything related you'd like to say on that?
No, ma'am. The only other thing is I am serving as the host for this meeting, so I apologize in advance if we have any technical difficulties. Hopefully we won't.
We got full faith and credit here. Tom, thank you very much, Ms. Pinkley. Smoothest thus far. So we're going to move to the topic 5 here, the DC notification update. I just want to go before we move there, and Director Fitchard is going to lead us through, as I'm sure you can see from the agenda, a great portion of this. I don't have official remarks here. I will update the board on, as I always do, just my engagement, communication by email or otherwise, which has really just been email over the last month. But I just want to offer to the executive committee here, there is quite a bit to discuss today. And it is often the case. Sometimes it seems like when it rains, it pours, but there's also a lot of opportunity for us to follow the spirit and purpose of the COB. And so before we even get into any of this, I just want us all to remain both positive and encourage and know that we continue to do what is best and advocate for the community here. And I want to thank Director Fitchard for her ongoing work as well as her leadership team too. And with that, Director Fitchard, we welcome you to for the first topic here to discuss a DEC notification update.
Good afternoon. So yes, we do have a lot to discuss. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yes. Okay. All right. Great. Because I didn't know if I should. Okay. So I want to jump into the DEC notification update. This notification update is in correlation to a officer involved shooting that happened on Wednesday, May 14th. 2020. And so I want to take you back to Monday on May the 11th. I sent an email to the new director of the Department of Emergency Communications. His name is Mr. Martini. I made notification to him that we had not received any DEC notifications since April the 16th, 2020. And I was concerned about that because we had received notifications kind of at least weekly or something to notify us that there had been some form of police and citizen engagement. And so I had noticed that there were 2 incidents that I'd seen throughout media, on television, or however else I've seen them, either through a email, that triggered something that stated to me that, hey, that is something that we should have been notified on. And so I emailed him and he made contact with us. I had Mr. Clausey in on the call as well, and we just had a conversation about why we weren't receiving the notifications. And then I also followed back up with him to tell him the kind of notifications that we needed to be called out on, and also the kind of notifications that we had received in the past and had agreed upon last summer of the types of incidents that we wanted to be notified on. That would be officer-involved shootings, officer-involved use of force, which is K9 apprehensions, taser deployments, hospitalizations of citizens who might have had a fight or an injury in their connection with the police department or their interaction. We also wanted to be notified of in-custody deaths, vehicle pursuits, vehicle crashes involving an MMPD officer and a citizen, and then any type of SWAT team deployments. And so he said he understood and that he was working on that. He said that they had kind of like an archaic system in place, and he wanted to kind of give us more kind of dialogue with us on what it is that we actually needed. And so we did that. And that was on Monday. And then my follow-up was on Tuesday. Wednesday, I received an ECC notification around 9:48 p.m. that mentioned a command on a domestic related incident. It had the address, it had the cross street, and it said that command will be running off of some type of radio frequency. That was all that it said. So of course it didn't trigger anything, and for me to be noticed that it was more than just what it was, which I had never received an email or an ECC notification like this in the past. And so the next morning I received an email from Mr. Martini that stated, he asked me, hey, did you get this notification from our department about this incident? That email came in at 6:21 in the morning. When I saw it around 7:30, 8 o'clock, of course, I was, concerned that there had been a police-involved shooting and we had not been notified or properly noticed. So I sent an email to Mr. Martini. I CC'd Mr. Bunton from the mayor's office, as well as Deputy Chief Hagar. And I just kind of went down through the whole incident and the notification, and the fact that this was a critical incident, that we weren't there, that we weren't notified. And I wanted to know why and what was the issue there. And so Mr. Martini called me. I also called Mr. Bunton and explained to him that this was unacceptable and that we needed to be notified. And if there was some type of issue, then we needed to fix it. And so we worked together. He wrote down my concerns. We set up a meeting on that same day, which was Thursday, May the 14th. And that afternoon, myself, Mr. Bunton, Mr. Martini, and Mr. Clausey was on a call, and we walked through some of the things that were needed. He said he wanted to make certain that this wouldn't happen again. He said the CAD system was old, that he would reach out to vendors to see how they can automate the CAD information. And then he said that he would like to have the info sent to him so that he can, have milestones attached. So for instance, with that email that was sent out, there was no follow-up. I'm sorry, when that ECC notification came to me on Wednesday evening, there was no follow-up, and it was just that one incident, and then there was nothing else attached to it. So I had no idea. I also didn't have a number to call in to find out what happened. So he corrected that and gave us a number for the ECC manager on duty, so that if we get a notification that's kind of doesn't have enough information or it doesn't make sense, that we can now call into DEC and speak to the manager on duty. We also have received ECC notifications since this conversation that included the information that I requested that it include, which is the incident type, the location, the time, the report number. And then today I received a follow-up from Mr. Martini stating that he has met with the computer-aided dispatch software provider who is seeking a solution to automate notifications directly from the CAD system. And he also said that he thinks that they have identified a potential solution to make the notifications more effective going forward. And so he's working with his technicians to configure out the system, and they're going to test that solution in the coming days. And he also offered himself to be at our next meeting to talk about whatever it is that the board might be interested in talking to him about, as well as introducing himself. And so at this point, we have requested the CAD and the audio recordings and the traffic transmissions from them, from the DEC, in regards to this police officer involved shooting. But we have been denied access to all of those reports. And they have cited that it was an open case. So we're kind of unable to move forward on this. And so that's all I have right now. If you guys, I'd like to, this is the opportunity to ask questions about it if I didn't cover it all.
Thank you, Director Fitcher. Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Martinez, any thoughts or questions? Feel free to go right ahead.
I've got a couple. The email that you received the following morning, did that identify it as an officer shooting, or how did you know it was an officer shooting?
Yes, when he sent me the email at 6:21 in the morning, he also attached the Metro release, the release that Don Aaron, the media release that he released to the public.
Okay. And then as far as the denial of the information, the CAD report and such and transmissions, you said because there's an ongoing investigation, a criminal investigation? And a criminal investigation of the officer?
No, it's a criminal investigation of the gentleman who was shot. And so that's why we didn't receive it, because it's an open case. The gentleman has been charged with, I guess, some domestic violence charges and I guess assault on a police officer possibly. So that's what they responded. They haven't, that's the email that we received, that it was denied based on it being an open case.
Okay. Now, remind me, when there are matters of that nature, does the OPA continue their investigation?
As far as I know, yes. That is a question that we are going to pose to Mr. Cooper, Bob Cooper in the legal department, because what we're conducting is an administrative case.
Right.
And because it's an administrative case, we're not conducting a criminal investigation. OPA is conducting an administrative case as well. And
Right.
so, yes, that is something that we have discussed and that we feel strongly about, that if we're only conducting an administrative case, it doesn't matter whether there's a Rule 16 in place, because this has nothing to do with it. We would never conduct a criminal court case.
Right.
And so what happened is we got denied the documents from the DEC. They told us that we needed to contact the DA's office to see if they would release it to us. So the investigator contacted the district attorney, David Zacola, and he said, no, he can't release it. And this is an ongoing issue. This happens this is one of the roadblocks that we have come up against.
Okay. And you have a liaison over there at the DA's office. Have you approached your liaison over there in order to figure out access to these types of materials comparable to what OPA has?
So we have reached out to our liaison, not on this particular case because we just got this information, the denial. So we haven't had an opportunity to talk with her. But what has happened in the past is once we get these denials and we ask her for the information, we still come up against the fact that it'll be released to us once, you know, it's processed through the discovery process after that has been filed. So
But have you had a discussion with them as to what OPA is receiving versus what we're being denied in order to see whether or not we're being treated the same?
No, I haven't had that conversation.
Okay, I think that's an important.
No, I haven't had that conversation. Yeah.
I think that's very important in order to know, you know, how this is happening and why this is happening and whether their justification fits with what's happening over there.
Well, I want to say this too. Remember, OPA doesn't have to get anything from the DA's office. OPA has access to all the information up front.
Right, but I'm not saying about getting it from the DA's office. I'm just saying as far as the information that we're being denied, whether OPA has it from whatever source, or whether internally in the police department, they're also saying to OPA, you can't have this because this is part of an ongoing criminal investigation.
Okay, I will check into that for sure.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Sweeney?
No.
Mr. Martinez?
Thank you.
Or Mr. Campbell-Gooch? Any questions?
No, or just to clarify on Mr. Sweeney's questions. So if they're not conducting a criminal investigation on the police officer, you're saying that we should be able to have access to those records?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, well, that was my first question, but I don't know whether or not, and I don't know whether that's relevant at all. But I was just trying to get clarification as to why they're holding it and whether we're being treated the same as OPA. You know, my sense is, though, that of course is if it's not a criminal matter involving the officer, that even heightens our entitlement to the documents. But at this point, I'm just trying to seek information to find out clearly why it is we're being denied and whether OPA is being treated the same way.
Got it.
Mr. Campbell-Gooch, any thoughts or questions or anything? I know you probably got here during the discussion part, but we are currently speaking about the DC notification and also what Director Fitchard has experienced with the new director. There's a new director there by the name of Mr. Martini.
Yeah, I guess, and like, I'm just curious about what it would look like to like organize the other boards and commissions inside of the metro government. That's kind of like where my mind is going, because this can't be the only like organization that's having a hang up in the simple way that it functions. So I'm just curious about, like, I'm just thinking about tactics to just like get what we want and what I think the majority of people want, which is just like a common sense community oversight of police. It's just like, I don't think that that's extremely difficult, but it seems like it is being made more difficult. So I'm just curious about like what it would look like to kind of coordinate with other boards, as well as like also work collectively to plug all the holes, because I think this is just like one hole that we're experiencing, but I think all pretty much everyone else is experiencing the same hole when it comes to coordinating with MNPD.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Director Fisher, go right ahead.
Well, I also want to say that I think that to Jamel's point, I mean, we're all metro government agencies. And, you know, there shouldn't be this much difficulty with the sharing of information. They've already mandated that whatever information is confidential, that we would also deem it confidential. And so, you know, to me, there's no reason why we should not be able to get a CAD report. Because at this point, I have no idea, even when this gentleman was injured or shot, because I can't get the CAD report. So even though a call was sent to his house at 8:57 p.m., I don't know in between 8:57 and 9:48 when he actually was injured, shot. And so, because I don't have access to the CAD report. So essentially, our hands are tied in regards to moving forward on this investigation. So I agree with Mr. Campbell Gooch. I don't know who else might be experiencing this type of road blocking, but I believe that it is happening.
And Mr. Campbell Gooch does indeed make an important point. Dr. Fisher, I just want to ask you here what I think I raised last week here. Could you just tell me, would any of this be, any parts of this be remedied if we had the MOU that we drafted and sent over for final approval actually in place? And has that been discussed with Mr. Martini?
Yeah, I reached when Mr. Martini and I had the conversation, I brought up the information that's in the section that pertains to him or what he does exclusively, which is in section 12 of the MOU, which says notification of critical incidents. And I think that Mr. Martini is trying to correct his end, right? But that end doesn't deal with the CAD reports and the reports. It just deals with the notification. The reports are being, I guess, denied based on communication with the police department. Right? And because I think that the police department is the one that is telling the DEC what they can and cannot release. And I don't know how, I don't know why that is.
Right. Okay. So the follow-up points that Mr. Sweeney's raised about connecting with the liaison and getting that information clarified, you think we could get that prior to the board meeting next week?
I can get on it first thing in the morning for sure.
And yeah, go right ahead.
And I mean, I think it may be valuable to try to define it from several different directions, not only talking to the liaison, but also talking to Kathy Moranti and see what she will tell you as far as what she receives of those types of documents in a case like the one that we're dealing with now or the other ones that you've dealt with where you've been blocked. So that we know kind of both their position and MNPD's position as far as what OPA has and what OPA is doing, and if OPA is pursuing administrative matters while there is a criminal case like this going on, and then get the same or similar kind of feedback from the DA's office as far as what they understand.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Okay, thank you. That made sense to me too. Mm-hmm.
And would I think there's at least a little bit of runway here in time to follow up on Mr. Kawaguchi's point here too. Perhaps I think later on here we'll talk about some of the kind of interdepartment collaboration and engagement you've had over the last week and a half or so. But it would be great to know if they are similarly running up against these same issues. And working with or getting information from there. And in the end, if we find out, look, we keep, like you said, your hands are tied and you're unable to do your role and your job here. I guess I come back to this. I'm asking this globally here of everyone here. what are we positioned to do? Mr. Pinkley, I'd love to know from you too, what are and what are we ready or able to think about as an option to put before the board for next steps and approval? Because I won't sit by and simply allow Metro Police to decide what and how the COB is able to do and how we are able to be effective. If that means we need to look at legal recourse, then we do. But perhaps that means we need to hold and wait and speak with Mr. Cooper, because I would not hold and wait too much on the support we might get from the mayor's office in pushing this forward. I think we need to look at other streams of movement and catalysts here. But I yield to the executive committee and Director Fitcher here if there's other thoughts. Mr. Campbell-Gooch, I see you raised.
Yeah, I think that was a perfect point, Chair. And my concern is that if something tragic was ever to happen, like this board and our responsibilities would be like scapegoated immediately. And so I'm just like at a position where it just feels like at this point in time, it needs to just like the actions need to escalate, because it feels like there's always a new hurdle that we have to jump over every 2 weeks. And it's always a new iteration of the same thing. You know? And so like I'm prepared to take whatever actions that need to be taken from my end to help support and getting this up and running, however extreme those actions need to be to get it done.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Martinez, any comments here? If not, I would like to hear from Director Fitcher and then Mr. Pinkley, whichever order you all prefer. But I'd love to know.
Yeah, this is Matt. I agree with Mr. Campbell-Gooch, and I think that a couple things, that it would be valuable to hear from Member Hildreth as far as discussions that they had regarding this type of situation, because there's something of this nature, although I don't remember what the language proposed and the language agreed to in the MOU with the police department regarding getting these types of information. And so I think it would be valuable to hear from her and to tee that up to her before the meeting so that she's prepared to go back and look at her notes or whatever else and can help to educate the board. But on the more basic issue of that, as Mr. Campbell-Gooch brought up, I think there needs to be a meeting with that original negotiating group to flesh this out in a broader sense of the situation that he envisioned, where if there is a police shooting like has occurred before, are we going to be granted, or what information are we going to be able to obtain to investigate it from an administrative basis while there is some investigation going on or not going on as to a criminal or civil rights offense by the government, by the other government agencies? Because I agree that if we get stymied from our core responsibility, which is to oversee those types of incidents and the response to those incidents, that we're going to be kneecapped significantly. And now that we kind of, have our foundation and know our function and are fully staffed, we need to be able to coordinate and get support from the mayor's office for us to be able to do that function when and if it arises. And we need to have whatever kind of conference that takes and whatever type of negotiation that takes, so that on the most serious of all matters, we won't get stymied.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Ms. Director Fitcher, just want to be sure, does that also sound like something that's entirely feasible, just connecting with Dr. Hildreth to make sure she's aware of the point that's being raised by the executive committee we'd like her to speak to so that the full board can be informed?
Yes, it's clear to me. You want me to make that contact with her prior to our meeting?
That'd be great. Any other thoughts? Questions here? Or anything else we should consider here as well?
No, I think that this is it. I mean, the only thing is the notification stuff is underway, which has been working really well. And then just the fact that I made that notification to them, I told them that it would be a travesty if a critical incident occurred in this city and the MNCO was not notified. And then 3 days later, that happened. And so I am pleased that Mr. Martini is working on this right away. But, the other stuff definitely is, it needs to be flushed out because we, like I said previously, we're unable to get our work done. And I think that the residents of this city are expecting that we're able to investigate these types of cases.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you very much. If there's nothing else here, then we will move on to the in-custody death discussion.
Okay. On Monday, May the 11th, I received an email or some type of notification from Stephen Hale. He left a voice message and asked me to give him a call. And so
it's Stephen Hale. Can you just clarify?
I'm sorry. Let me clarify this. So I read an article on Monday, May the 11th, that Stephen Hale from the Nashville scene, that he was the author of this. And it was in regards to an in-custody death that I had no knowledge of. And then Mr. Hale contacted me. He wanted to get some insight into what I knew about the case. And I was shocked when I read it. I had no knowledge about it. I didn't know that this had occurred. This happened back in February. Actually, it happened on, this gentleman, Mr. Gabriel Hines, was incarcerated on February the 4th. And then he died a few days later, like by February the 9th. And apparently an investigation started because his co-defendant alleges that there was some type of physical force used against Mr. Hines prior to his arrest. And so apparently MMPD Code Case Unit began to investigate the case. At some point, the district attorney's office was involved. And the case was then sent from the district attorney, Glenn Funk, to the TBI to investigate. That case is still open and pending. And so as Mr. Hale was talking to me, I realized during a conversation that it wasn't real clear. There's a gray area in our MOU in regards to what an in-custody death is. Is it MMPD custody or is it DCSO custody? And so I was not able to speak on whether or not this is our jurisdiction because it's not clear. And so that is why I brought this up today, because that part of what our jurisdictional, authority is, it hasn't really been fleshed out. And so I asked Mr. Pinkley to do some research into it, to talk about it, because that is something that I think it could happen. And, all of this is happening at one time. And hopefully we can get some answers so that we're all clear on where our jurisdictional authority lies. So, Mr. Pinkley, if you want to add to that, that would be great.
So I don't have a lot to add, but I can say that I've gone back, I've reviewed the statute, the charter, our rules, bylaws, and they all seem to indicate the same thing. We have the power to investigate allegations that an MNPD officer has committed some kind of misconduct against the public. In this instance, if there was some kind of misconduct that was committed prior to booking with the sheriff's office, I don't think just because he died in the custody of the sheriff versus the custody of MNPD that suddenly an officer who may have committed some form of misconduct just gets a pass. I think we have the power, if there's an in-custody death, to look at what may have been the proximate cause of that death. And if that is some form of police misconduct, then we absolutely have the ability to go and look into that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sweeney, let me go in order. Mr. Campbell Gooch, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Sweeney. I see you, Mr. Martinez. Thank you all for using the hand too. Thank you. I think you're on mute, Mr. Martinez. There you go.
Is it me? Okay. I thought Mr. Sweeney was going first. So yeah, I agree with Todd's interpretation of that. Why, if I'm also concerned that the DA didn't notify us that there was this allegation, like why didn't that happen? If we've been working very closely with the DA's office, why wouldn't they have informed us of this allegation of police misconduct that may have led to somebody's death?
This is Matt. I agree as well. I'm sorry, I can't find my hand in order to
That's okay.
I've lost it on here. But I agree, and I don't think that where the death occurred any more than if the death occurred at home or it occurred on the street or whatever else. I think, so long as there's an allegation of police misconduct, that it's something within our authority. If in investigating it, we can't do a complete investigation because there's questions as to what the sheriff's office did or didn't do, that may be a separate question, but I don't think there's a question as to our authority to investigate.
Yeah. And Mr. Campbell Gooch, let me yield to you first there. Anything on your end?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just curious about what type of legal action we can take as far as all of these things, because it's just literally the board is not able to function, and it feels like the staff is having to just spend the majority of their time going through red tape and jumping through hoops instead of actually doing their duty, which is the oversight of the police.
Mm-hmm. It also seems like not also really, it seems that there is a theme here of not having the fullest cooperation and engagement that we need from the DA's office. And perhaps this conversation, the follow-up you're having, Director Fisher, needs to be a longer one. DA Funk has joined us once before, but there's a bit of a thread here that is quite bothersome about just how and when and if they see and understand the value and importance of engaging your team and your staff early and often. And so if you can impress that upon him, and I would prefer first and foremost by email, that would be great, perhaps a follow-up with a call, but I think it's important for them to understand if we don't get the support and collaboration needed there. I continue to say we're not going to just simply say please. We will use all due avenues available in government to make sure this happens. I think that needs to be impressed upon DA Funk in his office as well.
Yeah, and I think that, if you're talking about a case that involves a gentleman and that there is some alleged, accusation of, physical harm by the police, and you start interviewing police officers in regards to this, that someone on that line should have notified us that this allegation happened. And we're talking about months. We're talking about the whole, the remainder month of February, all of the month of March, April, and now we're into May, and we're just discovering that this happened. And, this gentleman was not from Nashville. I mean, he was arrested in Nashville. So I don't even know if his family knows that this is an entity that could have even assisted with this. So, yeah, I think that, it's problematic. It was shocking. And it was definitely disappointing.
Agree. Yeah. Okay, so we'll add that. I don't know. We can talk more about the agenda, how we'll lay it out, but I do want to extend the same space. I know Mr. Martini has offered to join us. We certainly welcome him to address the board next week if he continues to be available. And I would extend that same welcome to DA Funk. There's more questions than answers as it relates to his engagement here, but perhaps you can get those answers in writing ahead of time, Director Fisher. You just please let me know.
Okay, I sure will. Now, I know that he won't be able to talk about the particulars because he made the comment that it was handled by, of course, TBI, but just the process would be helpful to know.
Exactly. Yes. That would be helpful. Okay. If there's nothing else on this, we'll move then to the MDHA, and I'm looking here to make sure I'm not missing any hands. But the MDHA MHRC meeting update, Director Fisher.
Yes. So Human Relations Commission and I joined together to speak with the MDHA Executive Director, Mr. Harbison, to get more information on the details of the National Guard testing at the MDHA properties. The reason why we did that was there were some concerns by community members that were raised about the testing and sharing of private health information. And so that was brought to our attention. And so we wanted to get some clear, direct information from the MDHA executive director on what steps that he had taken to ensure that the residents who live in public housing understood their rights and that the testing was not mandatory, which is what he explained to us. So we wanted to know what kind of messaging was sent to the residents. And that residents knew that if they tested positive, that their information would be shared with MMPD and that they would be given a quarantine directive from the Metro Health Department and that they would be arrested if they did not follow the quarantine directive, or that they could be arrested, if they didn't follow that directive. And also, and subsequently, they would be subject to HUD restrictions if they were convicted. He said that he was concerned about the residents who did not have transportation to testing sites. And he answered the many questions because community members were able to call in and engage with him. He shared that he did not have anything to do with the Metro Public Health Department nor Metro Police in regards to, what they shared and what they didn't share. He spoke about the need to make testing accessible to the residents and that MDHA had been paying for the lab costs for the tests that the residents had participated in the past, and that they didn't have the funding to continue in this effort. And so that is why he thinks the free testing from the National Guard was an ideal way to meet that need. And so the Human Relations and I had a lot of different concerns in regards to what was happening with the sharing of patients' information to the police department, as well as what was happening over at the fairgrounds. There was some discrimination that was alleged in regards to a gentleman that was arrested there. And there was also some issues that pertain to how they were, there was a non-discrimination order that Metro has, and there was some issues in regards to how they are separating the people who are at the fairgrounds. And so I partnered with her to ask these questions of the mayor's office, as well as the police department, social services, to find out what is really happening here. I requested the policies in regards to what Metro Police Department and the Public Health Department, what kind of policies and agreements that they have together. I requested the roll call briefings, the MOUs, internal memos, as well as policies if there was a policy change in regards to the confidentiality of patient information. And this afternoon, I received an email back from Chief Hagar with the updated, with the roll call briefing that actually was sent out and effective April 1, 2020. And it just basically talked about how they were required to keep this information private and confidential. And then, of course, he attached, other policies that Metro has in their manual in regards to, keeping information that's confidential, to keep it confidential. And so that's all I really have on that. If you guys have questions, we can go from there.
Thank you, Director Fisher. Any thoughts or questions for the committee?
Andres here. Were there any formal complaints filed, or were these just kind of concerns that you were hearing from the community?
It wasn't a formal complaint filed. There were, I was attached on an email from community advocates in regards to some of these topics, and they wanted answers back.
What do you see going forward with this? I mean, are you talking to other maybe civil rights organizations about this information sharing, whether it's the right thing to do?
Well, I think what we talked about was the fact that our boards were probably going to be concerned about some of these topics and issues and wanted some answers. And so I think going forward, we're waiting because we posed questions to the police department as well as to social services, the public health department, in regards to what was happening, and to keep so that we are able to notify the community. Because I think that what is happening here is there is a failure to share information in a timely manner of what is actually going on. So there's so many questions that's unanswered. And so I think going forward, hopefully we would get some response back, which we haven't at this point, so that the community members would know exactly what is taking place.
Thank you.
Is this still a timely issue in the sense that the testing regime at those various locations has been ended?
Well, it's ended because it started Thursday and Friday, but from my understanding, it's not ending. It's going to be an ongoing thing. So, I don't know when they're going to do it.
I thought it was set at multiple locations on different days for a week, and then they were done with it.
Oh, no. They have 4700 residents that he would like to get tested.
Right.
So this will be an ongoing process.
Right. But it was my understanding that most of the people just decided they weren't going to participate. And so very few people came, and therefore they packed up and left.
Right. They packed up and left because they were only scheduled for this last Thursday and Friday. But it's a continual basis. So they will be scheduled to come back out, maybe in a month or maybe in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure. It's not like a one-time thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything from you, Mr. Campbell Gooch?
I'm good. Like, I don't really know what else to say to this. You know what I'm saying? I'm honestly just like, it's putting me in a mode where I'm just like, what's the action? What the action we need to do? Because like I said, like, God forbid something tragic happens and then MNPD wants us to step into our role then. But at that point, it's too late because we've already lost a life. And so that's where I'm at with it at this point. Like, what do we need to do to either make the relationship with them better, or what do we need to do to let the public know that they're not working with us? Like, that's just like the two spaces that I'm in at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell Gooch. Derek Fitchard, anything else here that we should be aware of?
No, that's all that I have for that at this point.
Let me to Mr. Campbell Gooch's last point here. So we did share out, not to this particular point, but a general point here, the press release that came out towards the end of last week. And Director Fitchard, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that was sent out to all of our usual media partners. Am I right about that?
That's correct.
Okay. And I just want to uplift Mr. Kamaguchi's last point here because I think the press releases do a good job of sharing out information the community might otherwise be, they may not know about, right? A lot of it, quite frankly, but it does raise a bigger question about, is there a space where perhaps, it would have to be one of the two members of the COB that are able to communicate, sends out some type of communication, just let the community know as a summary what is happening. And I'm happy to hold here for the general body meeting so that the board can decide this. But I do think that as a whole, in totality, the community needs to know what is going on. It should not take the loss of life. Something is not on here, but I think it's important to note what 2 weeks ago with the bull's eye that was found in Reverend Caldwell's front yard. Immediately, I communicated and connected with Director Fitcher and then sent an email over to the mayor's office, to the deputy mayor, as well as John Button and the mayor himself, to let them know that we needed their quick attention and action to this. And, at the time there was, this was 11:45 at night. On a Saturday, but I opened up the communication line to say I'd be happy to talk to them. We would on Sunday even. The deputy mayor responded back that they take these matters very seriously, and that they were looking into it and asked for a update from Metro Police. He did get back to me even the next day, I believe it was the next day, or perhaps Monday, saying with a status report, saying that they had given him an update and that he would be in touch with me with more if there was more to be shared. I did not respond to the deputy mayor's email I shared with Director Fitcher. I, quite frankly, felt that the response of, we're waiting to hear from Metro Police was less than what was needed in the space. And I did share, and I'm happy to share out my email to the board, that it's very easy to take something like this lightly when it's not something that is likely to happen to you and yours. But that means that you lack empathy. And I also implored the mayor directly. He was on the email. I asked him to please make a statement about how in times of even a pandemic impacting our community, we cannot give space or room for this type of behavior. I did not hear from the mayor. I have heard by phone from John Button. I've not returned his call quite yet, haven't had an opportunity, but I will today. But this, again, I think is important for the community to know about as well. I mean, in a time when a lot is going on. And so I'll make sure I prepare that too. I think that the board, Director Fitcher, I can send you a PDF, should see a copy of that email and just know what I shared out, and also open the floor for others who might be feeling this frustration too. But I do want this to be known. I want them to understand the difficulties that are happening, because God forbid something happen, the community is looking at COB, the MNCO, and saying, you all should be positioned to protect us, to help us. And quite right now, we've got our hands tied. So, Dr. Fitcher, anything or any other members? Mr. Sweeney, I'm sorry, I see you there.
Yeah, I found it.
I see you.
Yeah, now that we've talked multiple times about dealing with a tragedy should it arrive, with the lack of cooperation that we're receiving, I think that I recommend that we very quietly, internally within the MCO, at the MCO level, but with somebody from the board as a liaison, and I suggest it would be Mr. Campbell-Gooch, to kind of deal with, for lack of a better description, pandemic planning. If there were to be an incident that comes up, and if we did not have the cooperation of the police department, how would we go about fulfilling our responsibilities? We've talked before that, when we were doing the negotiation with the police, there may be a time where we have no cooperation with the police and we would be totally on our own. I think that we need to, and maybe Mr. Causey can head this up, plan and kind of detail out our game plan for what we would do in the event that we faced one of those tragic situations and either had no cooperation from the police or the police and the DA's office waved us off so that we could fulfill our responsibilities regardless of the positions they're taking.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Let me pause. Director Fitch, I'll start with you. How does that strike you, or is that something you all are kind of already thinking about, or something we can come back to? And then I'll go to Mr. Campbell-Gooch and then Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, it's something that we have had discussions about. We have been talking about that because, of course, we have multiple cases where where we're trying to get information and we're sitting on it, and so we have discussed that. We haven't really we haven't got a plan together though, but that is something that has come up that we have discussed in the last few weeks. And I just want to note that, I have been raising the concern about the notification process, even though we've passed that. But it wasn't just like this week or last week. I have been raising the fact about the notification for several months. And the person that I was sending the emails to, she no longer works there. But all the people on the email chain, no one said, hey, Ms. Fitcher, she no longer works here. Let me get this into the hands of someone else who can handle you. So to me, it's just a continual lack of respect for the work that we do and keeping us in the loop. And so, yeah, I think that pandemic planning it would be a great thing. But I think that our hands, if we don't get some cooperation from them, there's only thing that we can do is try to talk to the witnesses that were there. And that's it. We won't know anything else because they are putting their thumbs and holding on to all the information that should be accessible to us.
So, and why then if that's the case, because let's be honest here, look, they know what how stubborn and they can make this like molasses. Have we discussed legal action to sue them, to bring them to the table, even if they don't want to? Because clearly, if they're not going to act in the spirit of the MOU, then perhaps we need to do something else.
Well, hold on. Sorry about that. Yes, we had talked a little bit about that today with Todd in regards to, with Mr. Clausey and I talked to Todd, the legal director, Mr. Pinkley, in regards to what our next steps were. And so he was working on drafting a letter to Bob Cooper to address some of the issues that we were having, because I thought that would be the best way to move forward first. And then, find out what our standing is at that point.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell-Gooch and then Mr.
I was going to start by saying I love everything that's been said so far, especially around the pandemic planning that Mr. Sweeney also talked about. And I want to say, I think that's where my frustration is coming from, Director Fitcher, is because I remember when you were bringing this up very early on, and it seems like a very easy fix. But I also just want to point out how interesting this is. We have a government body that has been voted on, and they're not being accepted as a government body by other government bodies. And I guess that's where I come from, the place of what would it look like to start coordinating with other folks that are also government bodies, because this cannot only be happening one time. And then also, it might take, I know it's this era with community oversight where it has to be you're playing the middle ground, you can't pick one side over the other. And at this point in time, that seems like that is harboring our actual progression in state and cementing this board as far as just Nashville's culture. So I'm at a place right now where I'm willing to acknowledge the line that they're continuously drawing in the sand, and I'm willing to just man that line as hard as possible. So that's just where I'm at, because it feels like as long as we're trying to play like a fair game and abide by the rules and continuously like hold out faith that these people will wake up and be adults, it seems like we keep getting played over and over again. So I just want to like offer that here. Like it's going to take a lot of creativity and a lot of like stretching of what people's assumptions are when it comes to participating in this government, and really want to be creative and proactive about cementing this, whatever that action needs to look like.
Yep, I hear you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
I agree with Mr. Sweeney that we should have some sort of plan in place, and I'll offer a new word: crisis plan. Maybe is better, more general. There's no reason why we can't sit down and walk through every situation. Like, what happens if we don't get notified by EDC, or what happens? You know, what if the worst happens? So I think it's a great idea that we take the time now to walk through those situations and have a plan so we're prepared in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. So perhaps, Director Fitchett, I know your team, you'll come back together here. We should certainly bring this in front of the larger board here, the full board, for their comments and consideration here. And then we can just decide as a board how we want to move forward. And it would, of course, we yield to any updates or information that you all feel, we should think about, or who on your side should be best to just lead this effort. And as a board, we just offer support because certainly this is something that takes more than just the time that we meet. It's going to be an additional add-on. So there may be already expressed interest in here and participating. Director Fitchett, anything else on this particular topic, even can, parallel to it?
No, I think that it's a good idea to have crisis planning. I mean, for certain, definitely to have a plan in place. And I also think that, to your point, to Jamil's point, and to Mr. Sweeney's point, I think that we all have a job to do, right? This board was put together out of a need in this community. And I think that this doesn't have to be as difficult as it is, right? So we're conducting administrative, and I like to just keep pounding that in, administrative investigations. We are not making a determination of innocence or guilt. We are just fact finding. It should not be this difficult to bring together the facts, look at the reports, and come up with our response and move on. That's it. It's not that difficult. And so I am a little frustrated that, and I think that drawing a line in the sand I have been doing. I have definitely tried to, be as accessible and, as to try to make certain that I am not overly or being forceful in my responses. But at some point, we have to just stand up and say, hey, you're not playing fair. You're not participating. And that is where we are at this point.
Take your point, Dr. Fitchett. And also, I think that when you're doing the work of the community, advocating for them, at some point, it's not about being nice or liked anymore. It's about knowing that what you're fighting for is correct and it's right and just. And we should all be on the same team here and not meddling in self-interest here. So I hope we are able to make positive progression here. And of course, I'm always available if we need to set up a meeting with the folks at play here. So I'll pause here. Go right ahead. I'm not sure where I cut off. Go ahead.
It's Matt.
Yeah.
I do think that we also need to use the tool that was built into the MOU, which was the task force meeting of the mayor's office and Cooper and MNPD. And I think that it would be valuable to put together a single document that lays out what it is we need and what it is that we're not getting, so that we then present it to the mayor's office and to Cooper and the police department and say, these are the things that we need that are preventing us from effectively or most effectively doing our job, and to have specific proposals then that go with them for what we need and what we want for those issues to be totally resolved, and then to convene the group to address those and resolve them.
Mhm.
And then in the event that they're not resolvable there, then we have to figure out where we go from there. But I think we need to be very specific as to what it is we want. So we need to be clear as to what we want and identify all of the kind of, key issues and issues that we need to anticipate, if that's appropriate at that time too, although maybe we do that in a separate matter for the crisis situation of what we're going to expect and what we're going to be doing, regardless of anybody else.
Good point. Thank you, Mr. Soon. I would assume here, Director Fitcher, just be clear on next steps. If many of the points here we're going to raise here with the board, so the next steps of just being very clear and having this lined out may take a bit of time after even the full board has had its input here. So we can certainly come back. But I do think there is a reason why we should probably just anticipate we will need to come back to this in a smaller setting here, just to make sure we're completely aligned.
Yes.
Okay. Our next topic here is the criminal justice and COVID, and Dr. Valia.
Good afternoon. In conversations with Director Fitchard over the past month, we've been having conversations about ways that we could help contribute to some of the conversation. We've been participating in national conversations with other oversight bodies around, and one of the things that keeps coming up is, what does criminal justice look like after COVID-19? And one of the things I've been noticing is that there's not a lot of good data in order to really understand what's happening locally in Nashville. And that is something that Director Pritchard and I thought would be a good place for us to put out some information, not a policy report or a policy advisory report with policy recommendations, but an informational sheet in order to inform the community about what has changed during COVID-19 over the past 8 weeks or 9 weeks since mid-March, when there's been some drastic changes in the criminal justice system. Todd, could you put me on as presenter?
I think it's shifted over to you now.
Okay, great. So I'm sharing just a couple slides that will show kind of what we've been working on. And this is just a couple slides. It's just some basic information. So the jail population in Nashville has decreased 22% in 6 weeks. And this kind of change is really drastic. And so underlying this, we've been looking at calls for service, arrests, and incidents, and how those have changed as well. So when we look at arrests, misdemeanor arrests have dropped over 65%, or about 65% since mid-March. And so this change has impacted the jail population. And this is something that hasn't really been discussed very much. And finally, the last slide I'm going to show you, there's a lot more that we've been working on, but it's just changing calls from service from 2019 to 2020. And so if you look at this map, all of the yellow and orange areas are decreases in calls for service. All of the green are slight increases. But if you look downtown, there's been a 60 to 80% decrease in calls for service from downtown. And so that small area accounts for quite a few misdemeanor arrests. And so what we were trying to do is put together some information that could be useful for community members to be part of the conversation moving forward around what does criminal justice look like in Nashville in the future. So the questions we had for the executive committee was, this will be a about 5-page informational sheet without policy recommendations. The policy advisory report committee, we had conversations about the process for approving policy recommendations. Since this won't have policy recommendations, it's not required to go in front of the full board for a vote, but I do feel that it's important to have board input, and I'm planning on having one-on-one conversations with board members later this week. But I do want to hear from from the executive committee what the process you think should look like as we move forward. Director Fisher, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, I want to make a comment about this particular slide. Dr. Valier, you see that the period is from March the 23rd to April the 12th. Can you speak on that a little bit on why it's not a full month?
Sure. March 23rd is the beginning of the Safer at Home order that the mayor issued. April 12th is the most recent date on the open data portal. I spoke with ITS today. They've been having technical issues, and they expect that the data for calls for service and incidents should be updated within the next couple days. And that will allow us to go up until current for calls for service and for incidents. So it's not a complete month right now, but this slide as it is compares that period compared to the same period the year before. So we're not fully complete on the data yet, but within a couple days, we should be able to have that updated.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, I think this is great information and a very useful project for MNCO. I'm not sure that anything like this should ever need board approval. I think it's the type of thing that it's important and valuable to advise the executive committee of, just in case anybody sees something that raises an issue that maybe the board should consider. But if there's nothing that's identified in the executive committee meeting, I think this is a matter that just falls within the authority of MNCO to just issue.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add to what Smith just kind of laid out. I think this is a great learning opportunity for board members about how we should be looking at data, what the data is telling us, and just a tremendous training, almost like a training opportunity about how to look at these things and know what the trends are.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Mr. Martinez, anything you'd like to add here?
No, I agree with Mr. Sweeney. I don't think that this is something that we need to approve, but I'm looking forward to seeing Dr. Villier's analysis here.
Yeah, I agree as well, Dr. Villier. I think it's exciting to learn more. My only question here is, you said you'd be reaching out to some of the board individually. Is that the entire board, or have you selected certain members? How will you go about that?
My plan was to reach out to individual members first. I would like to have conversations with the majority of board members who are available. And so I do plan to email this to all of the board members individually. and ask them if they'll invite them to have a conversation about it one-on-one if they have any feedback. Another question I do have for the executive committee is, as we are looking to release this, is this something that you think should be on the board agenda for next week?
I think for informational and awareness purposes, yes, not for a vote, though. Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah, my only question, I'm not sure it's a question, is just some kind of definition within MNCO as to what matters are considered general informational as distinguished from policy matters, and maybe that's the way it should be teed up to the board, that general informational matters can be issued by the board in consultation with the executive committee, but without approval of the board. And then the policy matters fall under the policy rules that we've adopted. And maybe just some kind of, language as to, what is informational is distinguished from policy.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Dr. Valier or Director Fisher, anything else on your end?
That's it from me.
That's it for me as well on that topic.
Okay, so let me make sure we're answering Dr. Valier's question here. So I think we're in agreement here, but executive committee members feel free to speak up here that we would want to add this as a agenda item for next week, but to introduce it or key it up in the way that Mr. Sweeney has just kind of outlined, and that we all are in agreement that this would be for informational purposes here. Is that everyone's understanding? Are we clear on that? Do we agree?
Agree.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Right. Thank you very much, Dan. If there's nothing else on this topic, then we'll move to new business and announcements. And I believe, Director Fisher, you have something you want to touch on here.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about the training. We had talked about it in our last executive committee meeting as well as our last board meeting in regards to getting together some of the board members and having some type of training or at least a committee where we can talk about training and then figure out if we're going to create modules or how we're going to move forward on that. And so I didn't know how we would go about creating this space. Todd said that we would be able to have training and board members could all participate if in fact we didn't talk about board matters. And so we're just really talking about training, like coming together, using everyone's skill level and maybe, piecing it out. Someone does one module, someone else does another module and what they're most comfortable with. And so I want to move forward with that, especially as we move into the summer, so that maybe by I would say September, we would have some type of training program in place. So that's the thing on training. If you guys want to give me some feedback on how to go about that, that would be great.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah, I think that the focus needs to come from you as executive director rather than us. From what I heard before, I understood that you said that you thought that there are better ways to train than just relying on the MNPD. And I remember Chair Davis saying that there were points of the MNPD that were very useful and that she would want those to be incorporated into, the training that we receive. So, my suggestion would be, however it gets put together, that there be a comprehensive proposal presented to the board as to how you think the staff and the board can be most effectively trained, consistent with the charter provision, then we can look at whatever your proposal is.
Okay. Thank you. Any other thoughts here about that, or a different approach, or are we in agreement there, Mr. Campbell-Gooch or Mr. Martinez?
I agree. I love the idea, especially seeing how the board is so well diverse and has such a spectrum of skills. I think it would be dope to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was just trying to get like some, whether or not we needed to put a committee together to see who would want to train what, but I could take the lead on that without any problem. No problem.
And Dr. Fincher here, there very well maybe, can make the board again aware of the next steps here. There may be someone who'd like to be a part of that, but I think what we're saying here is it would be great to just know from you an assessment here of what you think might be best, or maybe a member of your staff that can advise there too. I can understand though wanting to not create this with in a vacuum here. It would be helpful if perhaps a member of the board who has gone through the full portion of the training could just offer their expertise. But I also would be a little bit fearful. I wouldn't want their single perspective to weigh so heavily that the board doesn't get a broad understanding, opportunity to review it, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. I think that my piece on involving the board was more so in their, for instance, if a person has a background in training in conflict resolution, which is not something that we were, taught at the MMPD CPA Academy, that they would be willing to share that information with the board and teach that module. Right. So that is more so of what I was talking about.
Okay. And I think certainly if you wouldn't mind taking the first one with that, we can come back to that as a board and then look collectively at all of our background. I think we have a rather rich and diverse background of the board here. But I've got to believe there's more than a couple of spaces where we all could lend a hand here. Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Yeah, there might also be other groups like, I'm not sure that I have the name right, the Institute for Nonprofit Management that provides a lot of training to boards and things like that. So they may have some expertise or ability or whatever, either to help us craft a training program or to provide certain modules as well. So there may be, a number of different resources to pull from, or, Mr. Clausey, because of his experience in other police departments and such, may have other resources. So, there may be a number of different ways to, fill the needs and use the experience of the board as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
Great. If there's nothing else on that topic, any additional new business?
No, that's it.
Anything else? Nothing else on your end?
Nothing else on my end.
Okay. Mr. Sweeney, is your hand raised?
Sorry, no, I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Campbell-Gooch or Mr. Martinez, any additional, or do you have new business or announcements you'd like to make?
No, good.
Okay, I think you said it in unison, which is pretty hard to do. But thank you, I got you. All right, so just a quick overview here. We are thinking good space and position for our May 27th board meeting. And let me just be clear here too. So Dr. Fincher here, we are set for a May 27th, 4 p.m. Central board meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I'm assuming too, we'll get login information, WebEx details in the coming days here coming up?
Yes, we're gonna get that together and send it out, and also make certain that we get the access for the community.
Great, okay, fantastic. And we'll send out also, I guess, opportunity for the community if they'd like to participate in the open floor, the comment.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, then I think that settles in here. I'll connect with Director Fitchard. Per usual, we'll connect on this agenda and get it finalized and send out as soon as possible. Executive Committee, if there's anything that you just want to make sure that it's certainly on the agenda or anything new in between time, please feel free to share that. We'll look to finalize that agenda likely by Wednesday evening to have it then move forward quickly after that. Maybe a bit sooner, but at the very latest. I know that Monday is a holiday, and then we'll come back to probably a rambunctious Tuesday, followed by Wednesday. So remain connected here. With that, then I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Anyone second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. All those in favor, we'll do a roll call here. Mr. Campbell Gooch.
Aye.
Mr. Martinez.
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney.
Aye.
And Ashley Davis, I vote aye as well. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 5:27 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.